for everyone who's joined us, thank you so much. This is our, first of all, I should say Happy New Year. This is our first panel or webinar of 2021. We hosted 3 workshops back in 2020 that were really well received. We're going to continue on with this series throughout 2021. And this should be a fun one. So back in November, we hosted a webinar with Heather on content marketing strategy. And we received a lot of questions about content marketing and how it relates to search engine optimization, or SEO. So for this section, we brought our panel of in-house experts together to talk about how SEO and content marketing work together. So the aim for today is to really keep our discussion pretty high level and fun. We're not going to get too far into the technical weeds about SEO, but if you do have specific technical questions for our panel, you should have my contact information, so you can drop me a line. We'll follow up with you on that. And I can add the info to our chat kind of as we go along as well. But certainly, yeah, we're here to help, and we'll definitely try and get to as many questions as we can. So we're going to let our panelists kind of talk amongst themselves for a little while. We'll guide them with some questions that we have for them, and then make sure that we leave some time for Q&A at the end. So pop your questions into the Q&A or into the chat. I'll keep an eye on them, and then we'll just ping the panelists when we're done the discussion. So I guess without further ado, we'll introduce our panelists, and we'll start with Mike Hall. So Mike, he is our manager of digital strategy for Saltwire Network. Mike brings to us more than 10 years experience in sales and marketing with a focus on digital media and advertising. He's passionate about working with local businesses to help them find and keep new customers, and believes that stronger local businesses lead to stronger communities. And fun fact about Mike, he's got a new baby and he's very tired. So we're just going to give him a round of applause for showing up today, and hope that he doesn't fall asleep throughout the course of the panel discussion. Yeah, you know, we're lunch is coming, Mike. We're good.
I'm happy to today, not yesterday. He actually slept through the night last night. So
oh wow,
like we're good. Yeah. So next is Heather Laura-Clarke. Heather is a custom content editor with Saltwire, and she lives and breathes storytelling for businesses across Atlantic Canada and beyond. She understands that every company has a unique message to share with their readers, and loves being able to use her 15+ years of journalism experience to craft that story together with them. And fun fact about Heather, I know she has an underlit keyboard, which is pretty special.
I do.
I'm kind of jealous. Listen, if you don't know anything about SEO, if you don't have a pig keyboard, that's
the only way it works, actually.
It works, yeah. So tip. And finally, Jonathan Parsons, he's our multimedia manager, and Jonathan strives to bring an engaging and quality product that clients love. If you can actually believe it, Jonathan brings 19 years of experience in visual media to his role here at Saltwire, so he really knows his stuff. So we're happy to have Jonathan on the team. And I'm Angie Reed. I'm manager of product marketing here. I have a varied background, mostly marketing with agency in the agency world. And I bring 15 years of marketing and communications experience to my role here. So for me, my job here is to keep all of you informed about all the great marketing services that we can provide for you, and just make sure that you have a touch point. So reach out to me anytime if you have any questions. Certainly that's what I'm here for. So I think I've done enough talking, and with introductions aside, let's dive right in. So we'll start with a basic definition of SEO for people that may not be overly familiar. And this comes from Moz, which is basically the authority on search engine optimization, or SEO. So again, SEO stands for search engine optimization. And what it is the practice of increasing the quantity and quality of traffic to your website through organic search results. So it's a little bit different than what you might have heard about search engine marketing. So Mike, maybe if you want to take a bit of a stab at describing the difference between SEO and search engine marketing for the group here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the definition hits the nail on the head. The keyword that stands out for an SEO perspective is organic, so non-paid. So we want to, we'll dive into it a bit more with respect to content and strategy and everything else. But basically, it's a way to ensure you're being found within the non-paid results of Google. From an SEM perspective, most people think of that as things like Google AdWords, or they'll call it pay-per-click or whatever that might be. Again, a strategy to ensure you're being found in the paid results of Google. I always look at it as SEO is like a marathon. So it's an ongoing process. You're constantly making tweaks to your site. You are constantly building out fresh content, again, to continually bring that organic traffic to your site. For search engine marketing is more of it's a direct paid approach. It's a sprint. So I want to get leads to my site right now. Let's pay to do that and be found within the paid results of Google.
Great. So I guess, kind of just moving on, why is SEO so important? Why is this something that people really need to consider when they're building out their websites and their marketing strategy? Maybe Heather, I'll ping to you on that one.
Yeah, I mean, a site's content is how the search engine is deciding whether or not they should send someone there. So you're writing for the robots who are crawling that content, but you're also writing for the real people who are actually ending up on your site. And there's not a guidebook on how to write for SEO. There's just best practices and guidelines, and it gets easier kind of as you go along. But from a writing perspective, it's fun that every word and every combination of words has that potential to make that content easier for people to see.
Mm-hmm. And just to, I guess, to add to that and kind of really speak to the importance, I think, at the end of the day, if I'm a business, I can have the best product, the best service, the best whatever in the world. If nobody can find me, that's going to make me pretty irrelevant. So SEO works to ensure you are being found by those people that already want what you have to offer.
Perfect. And then I guess the next thing that we're going to talk about today is obviously search engine marketing or search engine optimization and content marketing. So I think probably the next thing to kind of cover is really what is content marketing. So the Content Marketing Institute itself defines content marketing as a strategic approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content to attract and retain a clearly defined audience. So, and ultimately driving profitable customer action. So I think, Heather, I'll probably toss this one back to you to unpack a little bit more for us. So what is content marketing and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, to me, I always think of content marketing as a softer sell. Like, it's storytelling and it's connection. It's giving something useful away for free to a potential customer without any expectation that they have to actually follow through and make a purchase. And it's actually nothing new. Back in the 1900s, the early 1900s, the Jell-O company made booklets of Jell-O recipes, and they gave them for free to all kinds of housewives door to door. And people loved it. The company was providing this free content with no expectation, but Jell-O sales went up by more than $1 million between 1904 and 1906, which was a huge jump back then. And these days, content marketing, it's very much the same. You're creating content, and the purpose is to educate, to inform, or to entertain a potential customer. And the subtle underlying message is that you are the expert in what you're talking about.
Great. Jonathan or Mike, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, from on the video side of things, like what Heather's kind of, a lot of her background comes in print there, but on the video side of things, it's really the exact same thing. It's giving more in-depth information into your business, especially nowadays. A lot of people really want to know a lot about the companies that they're dealing with and that they want to purchase from. And, people like to have all of that information. So creating, informative, engaging, witty videos, it really helps to kind of sell your business without being salesy. And it just, it creates easily shareable content too that can help you gain more traction on your website and to your various social feeds too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Jonathan has a good point too when he's saying people want to know more about the companies. I find that's even more important in these COVID times that we're living in, because people really feel passionately about supporting, small business, local business, more so than they ever did before. So getting that personal connection really makes you want to support those companies.
It can also just be a more interesting way to interact with your potential customers, right? We see ads nonstop all day. They're efficient, they're effective, but pulling people in a bit of a different approach can really layer on to any sort of marketing or any sort of advertising campaign that you may be running at the moment. And then beyond that, it's also just the fresh content that you have, on your website, on your social platforms, ensuring, you're providing your potential customers the right information that they want.
So we covered a bit about SEO and also about content marketing. So obviously SEO has a lot to do with content. Content marketing obviously is all about the content. So I think the intersection here is pretty clear, but there are a bit of a difference between, search engine marketing and content marketing and how they go together. So that probably the closest way that I found that we could describe it to make it easy is it's really a conversation between two people. And so Neil Patel, another high up in the marketing kind of circles as a marketing guru guy, talks a little bit about it as a kind of a client and service provider relationship. So a client would come in this case SEO, and say, hi, my name is SEO and I need you to do this. And then content marketing comes in and says, yep, I can do that for you, no problem. So it really kind of comes down to 4 areas with SEO and what it needs from content marketing. So the first one being, obviously, SEO demands content, and content marketing is content. And I know we talked a little bit about this, Heather, but what are some of the different types of content that you can use to help increase your SEO?
Blog posts are great, and blog posts are easy for people to add if you have a platform set up. It's ideal to do a new blog post once a week, but there are a lot of different schools of thought on how much is what you should go for. Website content is also very important. Sometimes it's not as easy to update. It depends on who built your site and what relationship you have with that developer, but it's not something that needs to be updated all the time once it's optimized. Social media posts from a business account are all publicly captured, and they appear in search results as well. And custom articles about your organization, which is what I do here at Saltwire every day. They're a wonderful way to help your SEO presence, because news sites like Saltwire sites are considered a trusted source by search engines. So our stories rank highly because we're trusted compared to just any old random site. So very helpful.
And so that speaks a lot to the written content. Jonathan, do you want to jump in here from a multimedia content perspective?
Yeah, obviously, it might be a little bit more difficult to say do, constant video updates on your website, but, a video blog post, like, to go along with the blog post, like Heather was talking about. But even just good quality video embedded on your website really does help. Like there's a couple of sources that I found, like HubSpot, that says, like a video actually attracts like 300% more traffic to your website, and actually is 53 times more likely to reach the front page of Google if you actually have a video on your website. So it's a really good way to, get people onto your site, and then it actually helps to retain those. So a lot of people stay significantly longer. 80% of people actually stay significantly longer on a website if there's video content on there versus just text and images. So not only are you bringing more people to your website, but you're actually retaining them with really good quality video content. So that's, again, something that we look to do here at Saltwire, is just, work with our clients to find out what their ultimate end goal is. If they want to have something that's more shareable on social, or if they want to have something that's more informative, and we work to kind of film that and provide them, various different options that they can use on both, depending on what their ultimate end goal is.
One thing I guess I would add there is for both video or kind of standard content marketing, is just having quality content, fresh content, content that can be shareable. While that's not necessarily direct, it's not going to provide direct SEO benefits. The more people that are sharing your content, engaging with your content, it's going to provide brand lift and recognition to then have more experiences with your business, which will hopefully lead to, say, more online reviews, which at that point, search engines and Google like that for your actual SEO benefits. So there's an indirect way to get SEO benefits in that way as well. So
yeah.
So the next thing kind of on the list, I think we'd be remiss to talk about SEO if we didn't talk about keywords. So I mean, certainly keywords is really the key, one of the key factors to search engine optimization. And we know content marketing is rich in keywords. Maybe Mike, if you want to take this one and talk a little bit about SEO and keywords and maybe some of the tools that people can use.
Yeah, absolutely. I think first, like a quick snapshot. The absolute 101 of how it works is search engines are always like crawling, indexing, and then ranking. So they're looking for hints across the internet to that you would provide them into your site, that they would then index and then rank accordingly, which would determine hopefully ranked based on who's the most relevant. So search engines are getting more, I guess they're getting better at that, to include just kind of content as a whole, but keywords have always been sort of the key component or one of the main components of SEO in general. So if you are a Mexican restaurant, you want to make sure you are ranking for things like Mexican restaurant Halifax. So incorporating those keywords into the right places of your content is certainly essential. So you want to have specific keywords in, say, like your page titles, and specific keywords in your H1 tags, and you want to include things like alt text in images, which is really only going to help, again, with with your ranking. There's lots of tools, as you mentioned, that can help with this, both paid and free. So like Ahrefs is a really good tool. It can do a full site analysis and show you kind of where you need to make adjustments. There's lots of keyword tools out there. The Google Keyword Planner is free. You can find, again, keywords that are really essential to your business. Google Trends, again, that can give you an idea of like, hey, well, what are people interested in right now? The Google Search Console is another free tool that can really help you tell Google what you want to be indexed for and what you don't want to be indexed for. You mentioned Moz already, not to go on and on and on, but they have, again, paid tools and also some free tools. So there are a ton out there. If anybody has, additional interest in a more in-depth conversation around that, we're always happy to do that.
And I think the one thing that would probably be important to mention is you can kind of almost go too far with your keywords. Then we get into things like keyword stuffing, which search engines actually don't like. Just wondering, maybe Heather or Mike, if you wanted to talk a little bit about that, and maybe some things to avoid when putting keywords on your website for search engines.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the stuffing as well as Mike could, but just in terms of keyword research, as a writer, I find it so fascinating to see how different words that are very similar can give you like radically different results. Like if you have a business and you're making custom birthday cakes, you're actually better off using the term bakery, even if you wouldn't really consider yourself a bakery, because more people are searching for that than custom cakes. So you sort of like, these tools give you a really interesting insight into what people are actually Googling for, rather than just how you would describe your business yourself.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, Google really wants a good user experience for its people. So, I mean, if you remember, to write for a human being, then Google is going to notice that and hopefully help with your search engine optimization as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the important thing is you don't just want to be over optimizing for every keyword. You mentioned keyword stuffing. So at the end of the day, it's always sounds corny, and everybody hears the statement all the time, but like content is king or content is queen. At the end of the day, you want to have relevant, fresh content, keywords in the right places. But that's what Google's going to value at the end of the day. So.
And in case people aren't familiar with keyword stuffing, I know I've seen it before. You go to a website, it has a white background, and then maybe down towards the bottom of the page, if you go to select some text, you'll notice that in white text, they have put thousands of keywords, and you can't see them unless you actually select the text on the page or look at the HTML. So it's very, very sneaky, but that would be considered keyword stuffing, and you will get punished for that.
Exactly.
This might be diving more into the technical side of things, and I know we were going to try and keep it fairly high level, but search engine optimization and backlinks is really important. So, I mean, it's important to create content that's shareable and linking to. I wonder if somebody wants to take a crack at explaining backlinking and why that's so important to search engine optimization and content marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, relevant backlinks to your site is one of the things that Google really values, or search engines really value when they're ranking your site. There is they used to use the term like white hat or black hat ways to do that. So there are a lot of link schemes out there and trying to deceive search engines, like paying for links, backlinking to your site. That's really been tried again to be weeded out. And Google naturally, if they deem, or they find out that you may be doing something like that, it could be deemed a link scheme, and you could be like pulled from indexing, or sections of your site could be pulled from being indexed completely. So really the best way to create backlinks, again, going back to content, is having relevant content, fresh content, content that gets shareable, content that other businesses, other people might promote, which then they will link back to your site. So you're gaining those links that are actually authoritative, relevant, again, which will increase your ranking. So
yeah, a good couple of questions to ask, like when you're starting to think about this content and then backlinking, is like, is my target audience going to be interested in this? Would I link this if I came across this? And does this evoke emotion, or teach me something? And that, you kind of have to ask yourselves those questions, because it really will help you say, yeah, if you answered no to any of those, then you might want to think about your actual content and if it's going to be highly shareable and get you those links, right?
Mm-hmm. Also, I just want to note that in the comments, Alexa mentioned content is king and context is queen. So that's great.
We'll put that on a t-shirt.
Exactly.
Right next to our webinar friends t-shirt that we have.
Yeah.
Heather, do you have anything to add in terms of backlinking and sharing for content marketing?
I mean, I know personally I have a blog, and so I get, spam emails every day with people wanting to do guest posts. And so guest posts can be good when they're done well. Like if you're able to sort of collaborate with people in your field and do posts on each other's sites, that's a totally legit way to do backlinking. There's obviously, as Mike mentioned, so many companies who just want to do it in a very shady way. So you always want to be cautious about that. But maybe just think about places where your content could be shareable that maybe you're not sharing it now. I mean, I know Pinterest is kind of like going away. Now people don't use it as much anymore, but depending on the industry that you're in, it is still very popular for, the kind of decor content, travel content, lifestyle, things like that. And of course, Instagram is now huge for sharing that kind of content.
And I think the final kind of point that we really wanted to cover today is, how SEO demands fresh content and consistent output. So, we know with content marketing, kind of some of the biggest challenges can be, consistently creating fresh content. But we should probably talk a little bit about the importance of that to a good SEO strategy. Wondering if Mike or Heather or Jonathan want to take that on. So why is it important to maintain consistency and keep your content fresh?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of alluded to it a few times, but basically when search engines are, again, like crawling, indexing, or ranking, they're looking for fresh content. So if something becomes stale, then it's not going to be as relevant. It's not going to be as much of a contributing factor to your ranking. So like Heather's mentioned, things like blogs, like if you can have a consistent blog, that again is a great strategy.
And I think a lot of this content is evergreen content.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're telling stories and you're teaching people something, and that's not going to be out of style in, 2 months from now. I know just personally with my own blog, I mean, I have things that I've written 10 years ago that are still super relevant, even though they're old as dirt because of the keywords. And I know we have talked a bit about, where to place those keywords. And I think this is the time to really reiterate that matters so much. Like your keywords are important, but where you're putting them is critical. Like your page title, which is the bar across the top of your browser. I'm always recommending people use vertical bars to get as many different keywords as they can there. And you don't have to worry about it looking weird because nobody looks at the top of their browser and sees what a website is actually called up there. But you can have, your business name / another keyword / another keyword. And that's really helpful. And then we also mentioned a lot of H1 tags. But an H1 tag is basically the headline right there on the page, whether it's a newspaper article online, whether it's a blog post on your website, or just your website copy. It's always an H1 tag. And that is critical. That's what they're crawling and that's what they want to see. And so we always recommend that that's super clear and concise. Like if you have a bakery type of business and you have a page about how you make ice cream cakes, you want that H1 tag to be ice cream cakes or ice cream cakes in Halifax. You don't want it to be cold, delicious treats made with love, because a robot does not know what that means. And a person doesn't even know necessarily what that means. Like you just want to be super clear and not get fancy about it.
That's actually what I search when I look for cold, delicious treats.
Cold, delicious treats made with love.
Yeah.
It's very specific. So I think that's kind of down to the final formal questions and topics that we wanted to consider. And I have noticed that we have a couple questions coming in. So maybe we'll take final thoughts from each one of you guys on SEO and content marketing. And then we have lots of time for questions. So if anybody has questions, please feel free to pop them into the chat. So maybe Jonathan, we'll start with you on final thoughts about video content and search engine optimization, just to maybe reiterate what we said.
Yeah, I mean, Mike and Heather both touched on a lot of stuff, keeping your content fresh, making sure that it's of good quality, that you have a variety of content that's informative, funny, that's highly shareable. So, there's something to say about sitting down with a marketing organization, coming up with a good long-term plan and coming up with a good way to actually execute that. So you kind of tick all those boxes. There's a really, everyone knows the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a video is 30 pictures every single second. So in a 60-second video, there's actually 1.8 million words. So I'm just going to say that.
That's amazing. I can't top that when I'm writing.
Yeah.
My final thoughts would really be that I feel like a lot of people think writing for SEO is writing to these robots that nobody fully understands. But really, you're still writing for people. The people are the ones who are going to visit your content. The people are the ones who are going to hopefully make a purchase. So I feel like, writing for SEO is actually just like drilling down to the very core of like who you are, who your business is, what you can offer. So I go to a lot of websites day to day, writing and editing articles for Saltwire. And there are sometimes I go to websites and like it's not clear as to what the business does. So, I mean, if you're a marketing company, I don't want to see a website that's just nothing but like cool artsy pictures and things like we think outside the box, because that doesn't tell me anything about who these people are. I want to see we're a Halifax marketing firm offering SEO services and website design, because that's something that I understand as a human who's quickly looking at the site. And it's also something that the SEO robots understand.
The only other thing I'd add, obviously the focus of this conversation has been content, but beyond content, like just standard on-site optimization obviously is a main factor in SEO. Obviously, we spoke to things like page titles and tags and alt text and all that stuff, but also like page load time, mobile optimization, your URLs, and a variety of other things. These are all things you want to be looking at to ensure you're ranking.
Well, if there's no final thoughts, I think we can probably jump into Q&A. So we've got a couple in already. So we'll start with Eric Jackson's question. So Eric says, most of the time, the best guideline for SEO is simply to consider the user experience, produce good content, update regularly, and serve your target audience. And the question is, are there any things I should be doing to serve the web crawlers that would not occur to me if I only consider the user?
I think like Heather's used the phrase "right for humans" with a nod to robots. I'm not sure, Heather, if you want to build on that, but there are certainly a number of things you can be doing. Again, some of the things like we mentioned in ensuring your keywords and you're using the right keywords are in the right places of your site, and all the on-site optimization that goes along with that. And then also, if there's any sections of your site that you don't want to be indexed for, or sections that you should be indexed for, like these are things you want to be telling search engines through things like the Google Search Console.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak as much to the technical elements, but I know with the writing, I mean, just like what you mentioned, Mike, like, you know, you can go back and edit old content and make it easier for search engines to find. It's not like once it's posted, you have to leave it there forever. So maybe consider going back and looking at some of your old content. Just, you know, changing the H1 tags, changing the page titles could make a huge difference.
Eric, I hope that answers your question. And certainly, you know, if you have further questions, reach out to us and we'd be happy to, you know, to have a kind of a one-on-one chat and do a bit of a discovery as well, if you do need additional help. The second question came in from Emma Pace, and she's asking, can you give some examples of putting keywords in a blog post? Heather, I think this one's an ideal one for you.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely what I'm always thinking about too when we're writing our articles for online, for our newspapers. I mean, really just thinking about, you know, for sure the headlines. So when we're writing headlines, if it's about maybe a law firm in Halifax and something that a lawyer's done, I'll make sure to have, you know, Halifax lawyer in the headline, because that's what people are going to be searching for if you're in Halifax and you need a lawyer. Also having that kind of throughout the copy, because obviously the copy is still important. It's not just all about the headline, and thinking about different ways to say the same thing. Like I might say Halifax lawyer a few times in the copy. I might also say, you know, as a lawyer in Halifax, John Smith finds that, you know, so I'm kind of getting that combination of different words that people might be searching for. And then again, you know, a call to action at the end. If I was doing a blog post about maybe, you know, services that a company was doing, I would make sure to be really clear as I lay out each of the services, and maybe in a little intro. I'm a big fan of the intro. You know, if you want to learn more about drywalling and painting, priming, you know, I'd kind of like outline all the different things that I'm about to cover, and then I would cover them. And then at the end, I would be like, so, you know, this was a great tutorial on priming and drywalling and all of these things, and kind of just repeating those keywords. I find blog posts they really lend themselves to that. You can also use tags in a blog post, which helps. And another thing popped in and distracted me. You can also use tags in a blog post, which helps, and also like little keywords kind of at the bottom of the post.
Yeah,
so
I think blog posts also are great because, you know, we talked a little bit about consistency, you know, and search engine optimization, Google crawlers, everything really like consistent content, and blog posts are a really great way to kind of keep your content on your website consistent without being too onerous of a task. I mean, even a short blog post is better than nothing. So that's a great way to keep that content fresh.
And it gives you something that you can share on like your corporate LinkedIn account and your Twitter account. And I mean, across the board, it gives you something fresh you can share regularly.
Yeah. Emma, I hope that answers your question. Certainly, you know, again, if you would like to follow up, go ahead. We did have one more question come through. This is from Liz. So does a content have a shelf life with SEO, or does it forever help to increase your SEO clout? Does anybody know the answer to that question?
Yeah, I think I'll give a political answer more than anything else. So yes, it does have a shelf life. There's no like set. I wouldn't say there's like a set end date of okay, this content is no longer relevant. Search engines are always looking for relevant content. So if the content that you've had out there on your website is still the most relevant, then you should rank for that. But content strategies change, new businesses pop up, competitors pop up. I think the way we write content changes, and then search engine algorithms and everything changes as well in terms of what they value for indexing and ranking. So these are things we always just kind of want to be aware of. So fresh content is always going to be important.
Fresh content is always important, but I find like things can just last forever. I mean, things I've written like 10, 15 years ago, people will message me and say they Googled something and like mine was the first result, an old blog post I did 15 years ago. It's like, wow. Sometimes things just kind of like hold their value, especially if it's something unique that Google's not finding a lot of. Like, I think one of the things I did was a post on how to make your own baby wipes. And back then, I guess not a lot of people did that. And it really ranked highly, and it still does, strangely.
Because it's still the most relevant, right?
Yep. It's still relevant, even though it's old and badly written with bad photos. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and the other thing is you can repurpose, right, and like reuse content. So if what Google or search engines value is a little bit different, but the same content, you might be able to kind of just alter the strategy around that content.
Yeah, you could do a new blog post and say, like, here are my top 5 tips on whatever, and then you're linking back to 5 of your old blog posts.
Any more questions for our panel? We do have a few more minutes here to answer questions, and I mean, if they do end up kind of dipping into the more technical side of things, that's okay too. Just looking to kind of keep the discussion going. I know I have burning questions, and they always leave my head whenever I want to ask them. So I guess we'll leave the chat open for a couple more minutes and see if any more comes in.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, obviously we're always open for follow-up questions if 1 o'clock rolls around, or whenever we actually all log off. If something sparks, just reach out to any one of us. Right?
Alexa is kind of curious to know what your favorite CMS is and why.
Do you have, I would say, Word, like in terms of web design?
To everyone.
Mm-hmm.
CMS, like a content management system?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I mean, the only one I'm really familiar with is SharePoint, because that's what we use internally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that I'd recommend it necessarily. I don't know. I'm a huge Google fan, so.
Web design. She said for web design.
For web design, yeah. So I would say WordPress for sure. It has a ton of plugins. It's easy to use.
Yeah. She says she likes Drupal or WordPress. Yeah.
Yeah, WordPress is great. I was with them
because I'm a noob, and it's easy, kind of plug and play. The SEO stuff is really easy to manage via Squarespace, and it's been quite simple for me to use as a not super technically savvy person, but my friends who are in the space seem to like WordPress. Follow-up is does anybody have a favorite SEO plugin? I'm not familiar with this space much.
I'd have to open mine up. I think it starts with a Y. I'd have to see what my WordPress says. I started off on Blogger, actually, because it was free. And back in the day, that's just what everybody did. And I had a heck of a time transitioning. Oh, Yoast. Yes, Yoast is what I use, Alexa. I had a hard time transitioning over to WordPress because I had years and years of content, and it's completely different. And in the end, I got it all worked out. And now I'm very happy on WordPress. It is much easier to use than Blogger, and you're able to do a lot more. And with Blogger, they actually own your content. So with WordPress, you can own your own content. Yes, WordPress is the best.
Thanks.
And I have no opinion because I just create videos and and help people achieve their vision on that side of things. So.
YouTube all the way for John.
Yep.
I've heard a lot of good things about Squarespace, but I haven't used it personally.
I have. I like it. I'm not super, again, like I said, I'm not really technically super savvy with it, but as just a web building tool, it's been really easy, pretty easy for me to use. My husband's a software developer, but for some reason web design is just not his thing. So
I mean, in terms of CMS, kind of just looping back, if you're looking at WordPress versus Squarespace, I'm always would be a bigger fan of WordPress. Again, there's just more you can do. There's a ton of plugins. It's frequently updated. So
great.
I think it also connects well with e-commerce.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are doing that now with WordPress. It definitely seems to be the best one out there.
Again, still have a few more minutes. Any final questions from anyone on the list?
Oh, I did want to make a point too. If you're ever doing anything about an event, make sure that whenever you refer to your event, you refer to it by its full and proper name every single time you mention it. That's something that we do a lot with our articles. If you're hosting something called the Great Halifax Cake-Off, make sure that you call it the Great Halifax Cake-Off in every reference throughout an article or a blog post or your website. Don't say the big event and our exciting upcoming event, because just every time you can put that word in there exactly the same, you're showing search engines that you are the authority on that event. So when people are Googling it, they're going to come to you and your content.
That nod back to consistency. We've talked a lot about food. I'm sure everybody's probably.
All my examples are about cake. I must have been really hungry when I made these notes.
A follow-up question from Alexa. Do you recommend quotes or italics for events?
Oh, that's a good question. I know with the newspapers, we have to adhere to CP style, Canadian Press style, so we cannot italicize basically anything, not even like book and movie titles, which I would like to do. So no, we cannot italicize events. I would recommend, I mean, you can bold it on your own platforms, you can. We're not able to do that. Just as long as you're keeping that consistent title across the board, I think that's the most helpful thing you can do.
All right, so I guess if there's no more questions, I just want to say a big thank you to our panelists. Thanks, guys. That was great. I know I learned some stuff today for sure. Maybe I'll switch to WordPress from Squarespace. We'll see how that goes. And I'm going to plan to send a follow-up note to everybody that's attended within the next couple of days with some of these tools that you can use, probably some of the key takeaways from this session, as well as a recording of the session. I know there were a few people that probably weren't able to make it. So I guess we'll end it here. And again, a big thank you, and everybody enjoy the rest of your day.